And Lentini is immediately wary of the fire marshal's investigation.
Fire is a complex phenomenon involving chemistry and physics. In this country, the people that investigate fires are firemen. They're not scientists, generally. And so they're going to make mistakes.
Lentini begins his own analysis of the fire based on the crime scene photos.
One of the first things I look for is evidence of flashover.
This phenomenon of flashover is key in fire investigation.
Flashover is a transition from having a fire in a room to a room on fire. This shows us an overall view of the room, and it's quite clear to me that a flashover has occurred. We've got on the door molding charring all the way down to the floor level. This doesn't happen except in flashover situations.
And flashover complicates things.
When a flashover happens, it burns floors and it creates irregular patterns, which means that you can't be making determinations based on visual observation of fire damage alone at that point.
Lentini must now try to figure out what else could have triggered the blaze.
Amanda slept on a bed that had a polyurethane foam cushion on top and a light bridge over the headboard.
And it's this light bridge that catches his attention.
This is the light box right here. The light bridge included several halogen fixtures. Halogen lights are hotter than regular lights. They're very good ignition sources.
And to make matters worse,
we learned that the victim, Ms. Alley, used that light box as a storage area, that she would keep money up there.
And if the halogen lights in the light box caught the money on fire, this gives Lentini a plausible alternate hypothesis as to what caused the blaze.
At some point, the burning of the paper money would compromise the structural integrity of that light bridge and cause it to fall down. And then once it fell, the bed would have ignited very quickly.
The defense claims it was a terrible accident that started with the light box. In order to prove it, they turned to fire protection engineer Doug Carpenter and a state-of-the-art computer program.
The Fire Dynamics Simulator is a three-dimensional computer fire model that allows you to simulate a fire. Using FDS, we can actually simulate a fire scenario in Amanda Alley's apartment.
Carpenter starts by inputting all known data about the fire into the computer.
That data includes the geometry of the building, internal and external, details of the building walls and ceiling, and details of the fire. So once the data is entered into the model, we can create a simulation of a fire occurring in Amanda Alley's apartment.
And with a click of a mouse, a replication of the alley fire begins.
We're starting at the point where the light box drops down onto this bed, ignites the bed. The fire is established on the polyurethane foam mattress and then is able to spread. As it spread, the fire gets larger.
And the computer model's results seem to support the accidental fire scenario.
It is our conclusion that the accidental scenario fit all of the data of the alley fire.
And defense attorney Michael Dutko believes all the evidence put together clears his client, Kazem Pagafri.
Everything fell into place. Not only did we establish what we thought was overwhelming reasonable doubt as to the state's theory, we provided what we thought was a seamless theory as to how the fire started.
After months of tireless research and investigation, the defense has finally pieced together the series of tragic events that they believe led to the death of 20-year-old Amanda Alley.
Sunday night, the night before the fire, Mr. Pagafri, he and Amanda go out for dinner. Mr. Pagafri had filled his car up at a gas station across the street from the restaurant where he and Amanda had had dinner. Mr. Pagafri probably picked up some trace amount of gasoline. Kaz had left on Sunday evening, and sometime early Sunday morning that Amanda likely was up and reading and had the lights on. Somehow during the course of that, she may have dozed off. The papers and things she had stored up there in the light box caught fire. The fire builds up in the light box and it comes down. That would have awakened her. The roommate finds her at the door. It's at that time, as those events are happening, that Mr. Porgofri came up the driveway. He then assisted the two roommates in trying to put out the fire with a garden hose. That was the explanation for the contact burn marks on his hand.
It's a compelling theory by the defense, but there are two sides to every story.
There was no possibility of leakage or contamination.
And the state is standing its ground that this is a classic case of arson.
All it would take was a little bit of gasoline.
And they believe the same evidence, when put to a new round of tests, still points to Kazem Porgofri.
Who else had motive, means, and opportunity?
Coming up, renowned fire expert John DeHaan looks at the evidence and challenges the defense's accident theory head-on.
In my opinion, this fire was set deliberately. The flammable liquid basically acts like a big match.
And later, the jury weighs in.
I felt like that I had reached the right decision. I had no doubts after that.
Have you figured it out? Stay tuned on Forensics You Decide. Get more forensics online at investigation.discovery.com. This program contains dramatizations of real events and violent content. Viewer discretion is advised. In the town of Davie, Florida, the defense has made its case. They claim there is no way Kazem Porgofri murdered Amanda Alley. It was a tragic accident.
We provided a seamless theory as to how the fire started.
But the prosecution is about to come out swinging, and Assistant DA Brian Kavanaugh is poised to prove this was cold-blooded murder.
We're not in the business of prosecuting citizens or any person unjustly. This was an arson, period.
And he believes the state's evidence clearly shows that Porgofri committed this crime, starting with the motive.
He was engaged in an affair.
The defense is quick to discount this as a reason for murder.
That theory is preposterous. He had feelings for Amanda.
But there's more to the motive when investigators learn the affair was just the tip of the iceberg.
We know for a fact that his wife had actually caught him at Amanda's apartment the Sunday before this occurred. According to her neighbor, she came home after a weekend business trip, saw his truck parked in the back by Amanda's apartment, and caught him. So the jig was up.
But perhaps the final straw is speculation of a baby on the way.
We found that Amanda had told co-workers the Friday before that she believed that she was pregnant.
And a piece of debris recovered from Amanda's bedroom seems to support their theory.
As we were digging the room out, we found some baby books.
To the prosecution, it all adds up.
He was afraid of what might happen to his business and his family regarding the allegations of her being pregnant.
She had become an inconvenient mistress.
It just got to a point where, he needed for her to leave.
It's a solid motive for the prosecution, and they believe the burns on Porgofri's hands directly link him to the crime. But the defense claims Porgofri got the burns from trying to save Amanda.
When Kaz arrived at the scene of the fire, he made efforts to get inside, and he had touched things on his way into the room. That was the explanation for the contact burn marks on his hand.
But according to fire investigator Lieutenant Schwartz, there's another reasonable explanation for the burns, and it's not from any heroic actions.
This is Kazem Porgofri's right hand, and you can see the burns on him, pretty evident. If you're lighting a fire with a lighter, your hand's gonna come down to the surface. These are gonna be your two closest fingers, facing down and facing down. So gasoline doesn't burn, it's the vapors on gasoline that burn. So if he's coming down and lighting it, the vapors catch, this is what's gonna burn on his hand.
It's coming together for the prosecution, but they still need to prove this was arson and not an accident, as the defense claims.
It is our opinion that the accidental scenario involving the light box was the cause of this particular fire.
We wanted answers. We wanted the right answer from an impartial source.
So Kavanaugh turns to one of the most respected names in the field, John DeHaan.
Fire investigation is basically a visual endeavor.